Thank you. Thank you. Wow. First of all, let me tell you what an amazing honor it is to be addressing the top 10% of the profession. Do you realize that? 90% of your profession isn't here. They had more important things to do. They're not investing money and time into their professional growth and their careers and giving back to the profession itself. So honor yourself and accept the fact, in my view, you represent the top 10% of your profession. If you recognize this scene, right? Pretty powerful. How does this scene end in a few minutes? He brings these young men into this hallway. He has them look at all the students who've stood where they are and gone before them. And he leans them in. He starts it out with the poem, "Gather ye roses while you may," right? And he leans over their shoulder and he says, "Carpe diem. Carpe diem. Seize the day, boys." Right? Seize the day. All we have is today. Now, just a little side note. We're all going to live and we're all going to pass on this earth. We all know Robin Williams is no longer with us. 4 other actors in that scene are no longer with us. Ethan Hawke's not here anymore, is he? Didn't he die? Oh, he just hadn't done anything in a long time, right? Okay. So, and over this path, we've developed a whole concept called safe bathing technologies. We even have certifications for certified safe bathing technologists that we can teach people in these technologies that are available that we're not really thinking about, right? We have technologies and skills in the legal area. We can do rule and legislative interpretation for clients. We're general contractors. We can help with construction and home modifications. We're aging in place specialists. And most importantly, and this is really kind of the foundation point I want to talk to you about, is we're very focused on the idea of environmental access and design. I think it's key to the future. So we've had multiple businesses that have spawned out of this. Bentley Baz, Bentley Wellness Technologies focuses on new cutting edge technologies to help us age and stay healthy and vibrant. InPower Home Solutions was an entity that evolved about 7 years ago to focus specifically on third-party care and most notably on Medicaid. If I were to walk up to you on the street and ask you, do you want to live to be 100 years old? How many of you would say yes to that? Let me see. All right, well then, how many of you would say no? Well, there's a few of you that I guess you're just not going to die, right? Oh, audience participation at its best. I think we would want. Oh, well, okay. Well, you just get up here. You can do this. All right? You can do this. We all know this. And what I'm telling you is that the way you answer that question is based on prejudice. It's based on your prejudgment, meaning your perception of what the quality of your life will be at 100 years. So when I say die young at an old age, I'm really saying that these are 2 different concepts. The number of times I've ridden this rock around the sun has nothing to do with my youthfulness. Make sense? Do you agree with that? You want to know an interesting fact? There are more human beings on this planet today than have ever gone before us. It's pretty amazing. And when we're going to talk about shaping our future, it's a really powerful opportunity I think you're sitting on. So here's the deal. You, me, we're going to live to be 95, 100 years old. We are. The only question is, how healthy will we be when we get there? Can we still contribute to humanity and life? And here's the big one. Here's the big one. How much health care are we going to consume getting to that age? That part of your professional challenge is to minimize that impact. Help your clients improve the quality of their life and learn how to die young at an old age. It isn't just selfish. Since the dawn of human life on this earth, every generation has had a longer life expectancy than the generation before it. Every generation, okay? So how do I frame this for you? I'm going to say to you, in my view, is driven very significantly by the concept of interprofessional collaboration. Have any of you bumped into this concept? If you pay attention, and you do, I know you do, you're the top 10%, right? There's a lot of conversation about this, and I think it's key. The federal government, the Medicaid system, states, private insurers, all are saying the next shift in resources is to develop interprofessional models so that we're dialoguing. We're not doing things in silos. We're sharing our expertise. And so what stands in our way personally and professionally in accomplishing this goal? We all have a tendency to repeat and make the same kind of decisions sometimes, right? And I've learned that two of the biggest obstacles, and I say in the aging in place scenario, these are the two biggest killers of seniors in particular. Denial, and it ain't no river in Egypt, right? And the other is ignorance. If we don't accept the fact that it's impossible to know what you don't know, and if you do accept that fact, then we know that we need to be continuous learners, right? We need to stay in the 10%. We need to keep putting fuel in our tank of knowledge and how we can help. And on a personal level, dealing with your clients, the fact of the matter is, as we age, things that were once safe for us to do can actually become life-threatening. So ignorance and denial are key. So I want to ask you, show of hands again, sorry about that, but would you agree with the statement that knowledge is power? Would you agree with that? So if you agree with the statement that knowledge is power, therefore, would you also be willing to agree with the statement that lack of knowledge is lack of power? Okay. So I want to give you a little bit of a 2x4 beside the head here, okay? Let's just talk about this mass of humanity headed into old age, baby boomers, right? I'm 65 years old, I'd be one of them. And let's just look at what we're dealing with now, and these statistics are old, right? Insomnia, 64 million, MS, 400,000, arthritis, 40 million, chronic pain, 8 million, or 80 million, right? Circulatory problems, diabetes, fibromyalgia, COPD, incontinence. Okay, I never realized how devastating mild, low-grade incontinence can be to people's quality of life. And there are millions and millions of people suffering from this, right? So the idea of being able to clean yourself easily and quickly becomes life-altering. Depression and Alzheimer's. Boy, that's a big one. We're going, where's this going to spike and go for us? And then we're beating ourselves up. We're living life and we're injuring ourselves. We're creating mobility issues. We're suffering 5.5 million cases of paralysis. Amputations, we have all these beautiful young people coming back from war with amputations, traumatic brain injuries, spinal cord injuries. Soft tissue, here's a big one. Soft tissue, and how many in here suffer some sort of body ache, pain, whatever? 240 million people in the United States deal with some sort of soft tissue related pain. Do you realize that's almost every man, woman, and child in the United States? We got around 300 million here. 240 of us are dealing with these kinds of pain issues. And as a result of that, I had to start okay, now we're consuming health care, right? We're being forced into the hospital, nursing homes, assisted living facilities, rehab facilities in droves. And all of a sudden, the Scientific American came out and said the number 3 leading cause of death in the United States today is iatrogenic diseases or conditions. Does anybody here know what an iatrogenic condition is? It's an injury or illness that is caused by healthcare or therapy. So infections in the hospital, adverse drug reactions, you just go down the list. Misdiagnosis, prescribing the wrong medication, dosing the wrong all of these things are iatrogenic conditions. They happen to us because we seek health care. We have over 440,000 preventable hospital deaths every year. Have any of you heard of the infection epidemic that's going on in our hospitals today? How do we manage the rampant spread of infections in the hospital? Right? It's very critical. And I'm not being negative, I'm just telling you our future's pretty bright if our goal is to manage and reduce the impact that these realities have on our society, ourselves, and our clients. Does that make sense? So I want to cast this to you in the context of a tale of two seniors. You know who they are, right? My parents. Somebody, was it you? Somebody said, are you going to talk about your dad? Damn right I'm going to talk about my dad, okay? But here's the point, all right? My mom, healthy, vibrant, living in the home she was born in. living in the home she was born in, Marlton, Arkansas. This picture was made of her 3 weeks before her 59th wedding anniversary. That's the bathroom my grandparents put in this house in the 20s or 30s. But on her 59th wedding anniversary, my mother was absolutely committed to being clean for her husband. So she went through whatever process she had to get herself in that bathtub. I am not saying anything negative. I'm not bashing on people, but I'm just saying if we're going to learn from the past, we need to be aware that not everything we do is always effective and efficient. And a very well-meaning OT said, put a couple of grab bars in, put a portable bench in the tub for her, she'll be safe. Not right, okay? The bench moved, it scared her, she thought she was going to fall. In fact, her overreaction caused her to fall, caused her to break her hip. And that's what started this process. Now, when that happened to my mother at 83 was healthy as a horse. She took no prescription medications. She had no age-related problems. She worked out 5 days a week. I called her Nana Schwarzenegger. My mom was the one who was going to outlive all my aunts and uncles and their peers, right? Everybody knew it. But when that injury happened to her and she went into the healthcare system, she was dead in a nursing home almost exactly a year to the day that she fell. And it was not the broken hip that killed my mom. My mom died of an iatrogenic condition. This picture is 4 weeks after my mom fell. It's 7 weeks after the picture you looked at before. Do you see a difference in her? Yeah. My mom went into the emergency room in pain. First thing, Arkansas, right? Hi, honey, would you like something for your pain? And my mom's, oh yes, please. I give her a pain medication. She's a rapid metabolizer. Any of you aware of the opioid epidemic we have going on? Okay. My mom, boom. CVA, massive stroke, just like that. My mom lost 60% of her cognitive ability overnight. Now, she didn't have Alzheimer's, but in terms of how she was manifesting, it was as if she developed full-blown Alzheimer's overnight. And now we're in a different ballgame. Now they're trying to treat this. This causes her to have a series of heart attacks. Now she's in the hospital 4 weeks. She develops an infection. They're trying to treat her for that. Then she gets bed sores. 6 weeks into this process, she develops what they casually called hospital psychosis. Any of you ever heard of this? My mom was in 4-point restraints for 10 days. 10 days. And the docs are going, we're trying to get her meds under control. This is not unusual. My sister, oh yeah, it is. This is not our mom. Sorry. So at 8 weeks, my sister and I said, we got to get her out of the hospital. They're going to kill her, right? And we did. But what that meant was she came home from my dad to be the primary caregiver. Now, we're weird in the South, all right? We plan out dying and we got stones and all this kind of stuff. This is my parents' headstone in the cemetery. It was there before my mother died. It was there before my father died. And you'll notice in the middle, they were very proud of their marriage. They were married August 6, 1944. You probably can't see it, but the exit date for my mom on there is August 5th, 2004. She died the day before their 60th wedding anniversary in a nursing home, right? So I want to say to you, my father was at the other end of the spectrum. When my mother fell, my father was not healthy. My father had 2-shot hips. He was depressed. He was taking 9 prescription medications. He'd been taking prednisone, a steroid, for almost 9 years because he didn't know how to manage his pain. Terrible, terrible toxic chemical to put in your body, right? And my dad was not doing well. But when my mom died, he had a response that was life-altering. And he said, George, I will never, ever, ever go into a nursing home. Never. And I want you to promise me that you'll help me make that happen. So I tell people that my mom falling in the bathroom began the end of her life. It began the beginning of a new life, a new passion and purpose in my life. And it actually began a new life for my father to be more healthy and more vibrant and to be proactive, to seize the day, every day in his life. And we started down this path. And I learned that if this is a point A, point B game, we're all going to end up with 2 dates on something somewhere. We entered on this date and we exited on another. It's an A-B game, which means if we do nothing, we're going to continue down that process and we will die someday, right? We call them degenerative or age-related conditions. Do you believe that? Do you believe that's a natural process? Okay, but do you also believe that maybe if we do things preactively, I can do one thing that might slow that process? What's the value to my life if I do that? What's the value to society if I do that? If I stay out of one hospital visit? What if I can actually stop this degenerative process? We've got hundreds of people we've worked with that have stopped the process. And then we've got people like my father who have actually improved. I will tell you in no uncertain terms, and you can put anybody in front of me you want to, my dad is younger at his age now than he was 15 years ago. And you tell me how you measure youthfulness. His brain function, his organ function, his blood work, his strength, his mobility, his attitude, his sense of humor, they're all better now than they were when he was 83 years old. So I'm telling you, we really can be proactive and do something in the context of what I call the 4 secrets of how to die young at an old age. And I'm telling you, they impact your daily work. Okay, the first thing is reduce stress. How much stress do we have? Oh my God. Oh my God, I've got to be up there. I've got to be ready to go at 11 o'clock. You know, everything happens in my life this morning. My kids are this and that, the car's that, the dog's this. And I'm going, you know, I'm supposed to be up there, right? I'm feeling stressed. I actually got honked at a couple of times. You know, But stress is a big killer, and we all deal with it, right? But why is this such a big deal? Why is stress so hard for us? Why is it so damaging to our bodies? Because it is contrary to the way we were wired and built to be. We have the amygdala in our brain that is the fight or flight, right? Fight or flight. And we were evolved and built to have life-threatening situations that require a response, right? Not continuous. So the idea is, oh, I'm hungry. Well, maybe my response is I've got to go out and hunt and forage for 2 or 3 days to feed my family. So a normal level of stimulus and an appropriate response to that. But what have we done today? We've turned that completely backwards around, right? We live in this environment of huge stimulus, which creates stress. And we don't have a response mechanism for that. So we're stressing. Fight or flight, fight or flight, fight or flight. Get out of this lane, turn here, don't, oh my God, you missed the cutoff to Central City. You know, going to Idaho Springs, going around there, right? Stress. Not a lot of response. I don't know about you, but think back on your childhood. When I was young, I got in trouble. My parents' biggest issue with me was my mom having to yell at me, George, get in the house. Come in, it's dinner time. Come in, it's bedtime. Get in the house. I was always outside playing. I don't know about you, but my kids, the stress is, get out of the house. Get out of the house. Go do something, right? They're living in this virtual reality world where they have huge realistic stimulation all around them. And what is their response? Right? Yeah. Ooh. Well, yeah, that's pretty. Okay. So we need to honor that. Who can answer this question? If I said blank is the best medicine, Socrates, blank is the best medicine, what would you say to that? Laughter. Yeah, absolutely. Laughter is the best medicine. I'm going to tell you right now, believe it or not, Mayo Clinic, other medical facilities right now have been doing these extended research programs, and they're actually treating cancer with laughter therapy. And after all these studies, the results, chemotherapy, surgery, laughter therapy. And guess what? Statistically, there's not a lot of difference in survival rates. Statistically, there's a huge difference in the quality of life for those people. All right? So humor is very, very important. Don't miss an opportunity to laugh and chuckle. George Burns, a great comedian, died at 98. Do you know why he died? It kind of dovetails things. He fell in his bathtub and injured himself. He never recovered from it. If he hadn't have done that, who knows how long he would have lived. But George Burns loved to say, we don't stop laughing because we get old. We get old because we stop laughing. And I believe that, right? So memes, I don't care what it is. You know, look for places where you can find some humor. And if I was this little guy, I think I would move a couple of feet one way or the other, but there you go. And we all have stress. I get a phone call from my dad's doctor a few weeks ago. I mean, he freaked me out. His doctor never calls me, right? He calls me, and he goes, I'm worried about your dad. I'm like, oh my God, what? What? He said, I just saw him downtown. He's walking with this beautiful young woman on his arm, and he's got this huge grin on his face. He can't do that at his age. And I'm like, well, wait a minute, Doc. my dad called me after his last visit with you, and I thought you had a real good sense of humor here, because he told me, yeah, the doctor told me that I need to get a hot mama and be cheerful. And I'm going, well, Dad, I like your doc. You know, that's kind of cool. You go do it. And the doctor's going, I didn't tell him to get a hot mama and be cheerful. I said, you've got a heart murmur, be careful. And I'm going, you know, Doc, I'm going to let him go with he's happy, he's reducing stress. My mom and dad were a couple through high school, married right at World War II. They were together. They were a single couple. My mom was the only person my dad ever knew. And so my dad calls me one day and he's going, you know, we need to talk, George. And I'm like, last time my dad said that, the next words out of his mouth were, I have malignant oral cancer, right? So I'm like, oh my God, let me sit down. We got to talk. What is it, Dad? And he says, I'm dating. I said, what? He goes, I'm dating, and it's not serious, we're just having fun. I'm going, Dad, at your age, you don't need to think about anything but having fun, right? And he's like, well, you know, she's a queen. And he's like, I mean, she's a queen. And I'm like, oh, okay, I didn't get that. That little community center they go to for lunch, he and Gracie were voted the Valentine King and Whatever, and he was very proud of that. So I decide that I'm going to tease my dad a little bit, and I'm saying, Dad, you realize, man, you're at that point, you're 90 years old. With Gracie, you've only had 2 women in your life. Mom, and now Gracie. And there's this big long pause. Dad, did you hear what I said? You've only had 2 women in your life. How do you feel about that? And I can tell he's still thinking. And then he goes, well, I'm going to make it to 100. And I'm like, 100 women? Are you kidding me? What do you think, you're Wilt Chamberlain or something? And he's like, what? No, I'm going to make it to 100 years. I'm like, oh, okay, Dad, that's better. But, you know, either way, whatever makes you happy. But we entered into a pact that day. We entered into a pact, and I did it today, and I know my dad did too. And the pact is we will not let our feet hit the floor to start a day, and I did it this morning. 4:30 this morning, I was saying to myself, this is going to be the best day of my life. Carpe diem. Never better. Never better. And look, how can it get any better than this, right? My dad does the same thing. The second thing we agreed to is we won't let our feet leave the floor to go to sleep at night without having made at least one person, laugh. So I think I'm okay. I can go to bed tonight and sleep. But imagine what this does to my dad. My dad is very popular, okay? Very popular. The women, everybody just loves him. They want to be around him. He's happy, he's vibrant, he's trying to make people laugh all the time. You ever played the game Whack-A-Mole? Boom, boom, you hit the things. I went to visit my dad, and again, he goes for these lunches at this senior center, big dining area. They have all the tables spread out. And I walk in there, and it's like Whack-A-Mole. You can see the women's heads popping up, you know, all over the dining area. I'm like, wow, it's pretty cool. So I was visiting my dad not too long ago, and we walked in. He wanted to play bingo, and they were having bingo. So we walked in, and there's a big empty table over there. He says, I'm going to sit over there. Would you get me a cup of coffee? Sure, Dad, I'll get you a cup of coffee. I get him a cup of coffee, and I turn around, and all the seats were full. The one that's empty, you know how I got that seat? Billy was the woman who was sitting there. And I had noticed a little bit of a tussle amongst the ladies as I was walking over there with my coffee. And I walked up to Billy, who'd been sitting there, and I said, listen, I'm George, I'm Earl's son, I'm here visiting him. Do you mind if I sit by my dad while we play bingo? Honest to God's truth. She looks at me and says, this is my seat. I'm like, okay. And she finally relented, so I did get to sit by my dad. Natural processes, therapies that we can use. Again, educate yourself. We were very focused on the concept of medical hydrotherapy because it's an all-natural process of relaxing, helping us deal with these age-related conditions. I don't have time to talk about this in much detail, but my point is, I believe you should be looking out and educating yourself about what kind of processes and therapies are there available that are not drug-related, that don't involve heavy medical involvement of healthcare, hospitals, whatever, and there's a lot out there, right? Secret number 2 is exercise. Why? Why do the doctors say you need to exercise? Are they telling you to go out and build muscle and try to be Arnold Schwarzenegger? No. The reason they're telling you, my dear friend Mark McIntosh, another thing he loves to say is, a sweat a day keeps the doctor away, right? He's a sports motivator. I'm going, hey, you're right, Mark, you really are, but my clients, to work up a sweat, it'd kill them, right? They can't do injury, illness, whatever, it can't happen. But that's the fundamental process. Stimulating our lymphatic system is how our body detoxes, cleanses, oxygenates all the inflamed cells in our body. We all now know that these degenerative medical knowledge is telling us these age-related and degenerative conditions, they're all based on long-term, low-grade inflammation, right? So how do we treat that? Our lymphatic system is key. Another thing I didn't realize when we first started doing medical hydrotherapy, when I learned the circulatory system, it was arteries, veins in the heart, arteries, veins in the heart. And what are we doing? Number 2 cause of death in the United States, heart disease. We're plugging our major arteries and veins up with cholesterol, right? A cardiologist pulled me aside one day and said, that's not the problem. If your major arteries are plugged up, imagine what's going on with your micro-capillary system. This mesh of tiny microscopic vessels that deliver oxygen and nutrient to every single cell in our body. I can poke you anywhere and you'll bleed because of the micro-capillary system. So anything we can do that's non-aggressive, whole body massage that stimulates the micro-capillaries and the lymphatic system is hugely powerful on our health and our longevity. So I always say, and I'm not going to spend time on this, but what do Mickey Mantle, Japanese snow monkeys, my father, Coach Bill McCartney, former CU Buffalo coach, and Peyton Manning, what do they all have in common? They all use some variation or form of what we call medical hydrotherapy. Here's my dad doing a therapy. He does one every day. Third secret, eat right. I don't want to talk about nutrition. I got something more important to talk to you about. When I say eat right, I'm talking about what we put in our body, what we expose our body to. And I'm telling you, we are consuming more pharmaceuticals than ever before, right? How many of you know the average number of prescription medications a 55-year-old takes in the United States? It's a range, but they range between, 1 and 8. The average is 5. What's the average at age 65? I'm 65. People my age in the United States average taking 9 prescription medications. My dad was taking 9 prescription medications when my mom fell and hurt herself. So before my mom died, these medications my dad was taking began to interact with each other. And they created a problem for him where he was losing his vision. His vision was coming blurred and he has a hard time seeing 3 feet past his face. So I go to visit with my dad and we're trying to figure out what's going on and trying to set up appointments with the docs to try to get this thing under control. Honest to God's truth. My mom walks through the room, right? She comes in one door, casual as can be, walks straight through, goes out the door on the opposite side of the room, absolutely, totally buck naked. Stark naked. Not a stitch of clothing on her. I'm like, whoa. Dad, what's going on with Mom and her clothes? He's like, well, George, I really can't make that much out about it. I don't know what she's wearing, but I can tell you one thing for sure. She sure as hell needs to iron it. So we are playing a form of Russian roulette with pharmaceuticals. I can't blame doctors. It's a trial and error approach that we have to do. I just want you to think about the fact of ADRs, adverse drug reactions. Huge problem. Creates massive consumption of health care. We need to think about this. If every single day of the year you turned the TV on and what you saw was a fully loaded commercial airliner crashing, killing everyone on board every single day of the year, do you think that would impress you? Do you think anybody would be flying anymore? No, but that's just ADRs. That's the number of deaths that we have every year from adverse drug reactions, and we don't really talk about it that much. Fourth is injury, avoid injury. My gosh, our body's not like a car. I can't just slap a new fender on it if I wreck it, but guess what? We're wrecking and crashing our bodies in record numbers, right? I gave you some of the statistics. For 15 years, I've been in the homes of seniors, their adult children, and caregivers trying to help them figure out empowering the loved one to stay and age in place. For 7 years, I've focused studying hundreds of home modifications, primarily under the Medicaid program. And there's a lot of room for improvement, folks. A lot of room for improvement. And what I love about talking to the 10% Why does Bentley Baths have 35 different shells and configurations? Because OTs and physical therapists and people who care come back to us and go, hey, I need to be able to do this for this client, right? Maybe we don't have this solution right now, but here's how together we can figure out how to MacGyver this and make a better outcome for your client. Does that make sense to you? What's missing, I think, fundamentally, is the lack of environmental access consultation. I think that's key. It's a different approach. It's a different thought process to all these things. Who can write a book about killer bathrooms, right? Well, this is the guy you're talking to me. How often does that happen? Now it's 15 seconds, every 15 seconds. While I'm talking to you, 4 Americans will die because of a bathroom-related fall. It's very serious. I tell people the bathroom is the 10 most dangerous square feet on earth. Now, we need to look at where we have shortcomings. So I'm sharing with you these real experiences, not to criticize or question, but to challenge you to how can we do a quality improvement process on this. This is a post-OT bathroom, right? You can see all the technologies that are in there, portable bench, grab bar, booster on the chair, the toilet, all these kind of things, but this is not a safe bathroom. We've all seen people getting into, we know the tragedy of getting into and out of bathtubs and how dangerous that is. We tend to rush into showers. This is a post-OT shower. She's got a grab bar. But watch this woman. She pivots into the bathroom. She's leaning on the glass doors. She can barely fit in there. It is not a good outcome for her. It is not a good outcome for her. But it meets kind of the industry standard, if you will. We do have the technologies. This is Mr. Diaz, who I showed you getting in and out of his bathtub before. Now he's getting into a safe bathing appliance, 30 seconds. This environment was specifically engineered for him. Through environmental access, he has neuropathy, he has other issues, so we had to put thermostatic protection and other types of functions in this environment for him, but it's designed for him and he's safe. And he can do it 30 seconds, and he can do it every day if he wants to. And we can also put the therapy on it. We all know what the second most dangerous part of the home is, stairs, right? We have technologies to address. All I want to talk to you about on this point is, remember the denial and ignorance thing? When we get older, we tend to develop a pretty healthy denial process. We don't want to admit that we don't know things. So many seniors come to a flight of stairs and they take a big gulp and they go for it, right? But this toddler, is this toddler going up the stairs or down the stairs? Down the stairs. Down the stairs. You put a 2-year-old at the top of a flight of stairs and their innate intelligence is more developed than ours as we get older. They'll look at that and go, mm-mm. They'll flip around, get on all fours, and they'll back down. They'll back down the stairs. We lose that, right? That's MacGyvering stairs, isn't it? It is. So let's just look real quick at the home mod rule under Medicaid. There are a lot of problems. HICPIF, the federal government, Affordable Care Act, all these things are promoting the idea of the patient-centered medical home, right? You've heard these concepts. It's patient-centeredness. How do we improve the outcomes of these things? And the triple aim, if you're familiar with that, the triple aim is how do we create better outcomes? How do we reduce the cost? And how do we provide a higher level of solution for our clients? That's the triple aim, and it covers all aspects of occupational therapy and healthcare. So in the Medicaid environment, I'm telling you, it ain't working. And I think it's not working because it's structured to be siloed. It's structured to be siloed. Nobody in the state's going to prevent collaboration, but they don't facilitate it, right? So let me explain that to you. Here's how the home modification rule works. You get qualified for the benefit, a case management agency will get the file, a case manager gets that, the case manager puts that out to an OT, and the OT is sent out to do an assessment and evaluation of that home and to make recommendations as to what needs to be done. How much guidance and structure is to that? Very little. The recommendations can vary widely, and I'm not saying anything negative again, but they tend to be pretty subjective, meaning each individual OT may have different focuses and interests and pays attention to different things, and we end up with different results. So the recommendations can vary wildly in terms of the scope of work. This comes back to the case manager, and the case manager sends out 2, 3, or 4 Medicaid-approved contractors to bid within 30 days. How often does this happen within 30 days? Right? But that's what the rule's for. And there's no oversight of this process. It's supposed to be apples to apples, and there's no way to ensure that that's exactly what's happening. So the contractor's bids vary pretty wildly. Now the case manager gets this back. They take a look at it and they select the contractor. What's the number one criteria they use to select the contractor? Lowest bid, right? Lowest bid. Would you run your life that way in the private pay environment? Are you going to say to yourself the cheapest price is always the best outcome? That is not true. Now, as a lawyer, I will tell you the rule, the way it's been modified, empowers your clients. It is designed to be client-based and client-centered, but somebody's got to educate them about what their rights are. Somebody needs to advocate for them and help them to understand, I'm more interested in the access into the home than the bathroom, or whatever it is. You follow me? The rule empowers it, but they don't understand it. So what happens is the state gets and reviews these bids that are all over the place. They're not consistent. They're confusing. So what happens is there's a tendency to stop it, reject it, to question it, and send it back. So what is the result? Increased cost, delay, lower quality of outcome for the client. Are you with me? No bad people involved in this, okay? This is not intentional. I'm just being honest with you about that's the way the system works. And I think it's because there is no interprofessional collaboration. And in particular, I think when the home mod process, there isn't any environmental access input. This is this week, okay? This is just this week. I just grabbed 2 from Monday. OT goes out, put in a ramp, ADA compliant ramp. That's it. Put in an ADA compliant ramp. This is a 36-inch high drop, which means 36 foot of ramp. We have to have a 5x5 platform to turn. The woman's got her carport there. She's got to park her car there. You can't tell it, but her property line ends right out of the photo. And man, to get a 36-inch foot ramp in that ain't going to happen. So some contractors are going to go, well, what about a VPL? And then now the client's getting all confused and we're going in different directions. Or I can zig this back and forth. One contractor went out and had 3 turns back and forth. And she loses her carport, of course. And then in talking to this woman, she's mobile. She's not in a wheelchair. She's got balance issues. That's her main problem. She's 54 years old. She's like, I don't need a ramp. I don't need a ramp. Well, what's the problem? I can't make those steps. They're too high for me. Easy steps were the answer. Very easy. But we didn't have the collaboration process. That afternoon, post-OT, OT goes in bathtub. I can't get into it now. The bathtub is dangerous. Oh, let's put a walk-in shower in. Walk-in shower with a bench and hose and a grab bar. Well, the contractor goes out and bids, and the cheapest one put in a cheap walk-in shower with a bench integrated. There is a handheld wand there, and there is a grab bar. But guess what? She can't use it. She can't sit on the bench. She puts her toiletries on the bench. What a waste of time and money. Here is an ADA compliant post-OT bathroom. Everything was done beautiful, right? The only thing I have an issue with, and Medicaid now will actually cover glass doors and showers, and I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. This lady fell in this bathroom, shattered her kneecap, and seriously hurt herself, and it is fully ADA compliant. But the solution didn't match her particular needs. She's very unstable, right? So we had to go in and redo the whole environment with a safe bathing appliance that was designed for her. Waste of time, waste of money, injury to the client, health care, all these things build up. So the answer is to change and address the inefficiencies of the system, but I don't have a magic wand and neither do you. You know, HCPF spent 2 years just reevaluating the home mod rule as it was to end up with where we are, again, with all the best intentions in the world. And I think it's not going to improve until we involve environmental access and project management in these home modifications. Those are both missing, right? We need to brainstorm best outcomes and define the scope of work up front. That means a dialogue between environmental access and occupational therapy. Our OTs who've got their badge for environmental access. I mean, the training is out there, but where do you get it now? And if we do that, then what goes to the contractors is a much more defined and clear scope of work, so they really are bidding apples to apples. And it makes it easier for the state to make that cost benefit analysis, whereas now they're just guessing. And I think the collaborative outcomes will be way better for the clients. And I can't offer you all a dinner. I'd love to say, test me on this, and if this approach doesn't save millions of dollars for Medicaid and our clients, I'd buy you dinner, but I don't think I can do it for all of you. So one of you, I'll buy one of you. So what do we do in the meantime? We seize the day, right? We take the day we have, which is now. And occupational therapy is uniquely positioned to exert leadership in these situations. You are empowered by the federal government, by state agencies, by society, by families, and by your clients. You've got permission, okay? Take it, seize it, be more active, proactively brainstorm these situations, bring in environmental access in every aspect of the profession. There's a need for interprofessional collaboration, I believe. Well, what about my father? Did you forget about him already? Not going into a nursing home? Not going to happen, right? I took this picture last Sunday. Last Sunday. My dad is 98 years old. He's almost there. And he's going to make it. He hadn't made it to 100 women, but he's going to make it to 100 years. This is standing in front of the stockade at Codron, Arkansas, on the Arkansas River, where my great-great-great-grandfather, George Ellis Bentley, first settled in Arkansas. We had to walk a quarter of a mile to get to this. My father did not use a wheelchair. My father did not use a walker. My father did not use a cane. My father walked there on his own. I was paying really close attention to him. But he has amazing strength and stability for his age. He is my poster child. And that's kind of funny, right? So, if you do want to help yourself and your clients to die young at an old age, if you truly do want to influence positively the future of your profession, then this is what I think you must know. Architects cannot renovate it. Businesses cannot incorporate it. Churches cannot inculcate it. Developers cannot innovate it. Engineers cannot calculate it. Governments cannot legislate it. Judges cannot adjudicate it. Lawyers cannot litigate it. Manufacturers cannot fabricate it. Scientists cannot formulate it. Technicians cannot generate it. If we're all going to die young at an old age, I guarantee you we can do it. And if you want to shape the future, only you can orchestrate it. Seize the day, my friends. Carpe diem. Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate that.